What's up, guys? Dario again. Long time no see. I've had a pretty crazy last 6 months since the last video I posted. My business has just completely blown up. I've been working nonstop. I probably said that in another video, but it hasn't got any better or worse depending on how you look at it. I've built 3 turbo cars this year, full turbo cars, 65 C10, a Fox body, and a Nova, and that pretty much took up my entire summer, fall, whatever you want to call it. So this is going to be the last build video. This is kind of all the footage I have left from building it. So it'll kind of just wrap things up that way. And if you've been living under a rock, you probably haven't seen any of the other videos that are out, but I've posted on my Instagram. I've posted everywhere. Like the car we took it to LS Fest, obviously. It made it, and it had a really good reaction. Like, everybody loves the car. I'll show you a couple quick other things. It's just chilling out underneath the POMOD right now. I didn't even touch the POMOD this year. The last time I drove the car was April 27th, which was about a week or so before we went to LS Fest. I drove it to take it to go get the chassis certed because the chassis cert expired. And literally that was the last time I drove it. I drove it back into the shop. And it's just been chilling. Like, it needs a solid weekend's worth of work to get going, and we're going to be doing that later this winter. I'm definitely going to go and get it back together with the new Holley Dominator, finish wiring up all the accessories, and yeah, like, just we're gonna send it next year. Hopefully run some mid-7s. We'll see. And then we'll head into the video. All right, fast forward about a month. Since I dropped the body on, I've been thrashing like crazy to get this thing. We got to go to, I think I got 18 days, 19 days till we go to LS Fest, till we have to leave for LS Fest. So I've just been thrashing on the car. I really haven't made much video because a lot of the stuff I'm doing is super tedious fabrication, I'm gonna call it. Like, I'll walk around the car, I'll show you what I've done. I've got a ton of stuff done, but to me it really doesn't feel like I've done much, but I'm just plugging away with it. Then one of the next things I'm going to be doing is dropping the engine in and wiring and plumbing, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. Right now it's April 12th or April 13th, one of the two. And it was about a month ago the last time I took any video of it. It's progressed a ton. I'm just going to flip the camera around here and I'll do a walk around and show you kind of where I'm at. I don't think I even had any video of it with the engine dropped in, so that's far ahead of we are right now. This is just a mock-up engine. It's just a 5.3 with a big hole in the side of the block. I dropped it in with the Turbo 350 and just made a couple mounts with some plates. You can kind of see it down in there. I just got to finish welding them. You can see where it's cut out for the blower. I did a mock-up with the blower and everything. There's been pictures floating around Instagram, and it looks pretty good. I have all the blower stuff fabricated. The blower plate, I just got to finish the plate for the throttle bodies. That's really the only thing that I still have left to do. You can kind of see the steering here. I'll take some more video when I have the engine out, but it's just a bunch of stuff I had laying around, a couple steering shafts. That's a U-joint from a Chev truck. They always clunk, so when I was a regular mechanic, I used to just save the old ones that clunked, and I saved the U-joint because it ended up saving me 80 bucks. I mounted some cheap gauge cups on the dash. They're 2 5/8 gauges. Blower pressure, oil pressure, and coolant temp. That's really the only couple things that I'm worried about while I'm doing burnouts, so hopefully it stays together. I got some outside door handles on it. The latches work. And then in here, this is probably the biggest change, is most of the interior front part is done. Here's the brake pedal. It's a Wilwood reverse. It's actually a clutch pedal because it only has one master, but that's the only, I didn't really have any room and I didn't want to have issues of mounting it on the other side of the firewall. So this was a pretty cheap setup. It's like under 150 bucks. And then I just made a steering column mount, and it just has 2 Heim joints, and then it's just a piece of 3/4 inch shaft. And I showed the steering wheel before. It's got a quick release hub. Comes off because I'm tall and it's hard to get in and out of things. You can see the tranny here. Here's the floor all filled in. Just a piece of 16 gauge. I tapered this down right into the frame rail here. You can see the tranny cross member. Not much to it. Kind of just filled the giant hole that was there with the dash. What else? You can see that's 1.5 by 2.5. That's actually like a solid tube cross member that ties the chassis to the rocker. And then I welded plates in here like you would do if you were doing a roll cage in a drag car. You can actually see it better here. There's the plate. Then it comes across. And then this is my radiator setup. It actually fits between the seats. Let's see if I can pull back. This is one of those 65 Mustang Radiators off eBay. Lots of guys use them when they do their forward facing turbo. They move this off to one side. They work really good for cooling. I just chopped it all up, welded a dash 16 bung on it, and then there's this 90 here, and then I have a Mazir inline pump that I bought off my buddy Taylor, and it's just going to sit next to the tail shaft here and pump coolant up to the front. And then I built this tube. I actually have the exact same thing in the Chevette, that if it ever kicks the drive shaft out of it, it'll protect my arm from getting ripped off, which is always a bonus. So it slips over the front. It actually gets sandwiched under here between the tranny mount and the transmission. And then at the back, there's just a little mount that unbolts. So like you kind of, when you remove it, you take the tube and the tube and the drive shaft out at the same time. So you just kind of pull it all out in one unit. All this piece in here will all be removable. I still am going to build a tunnel that comes over, and it'll just sit between the seats. There's actually a little more room in this than there is in the Chevette because there's no roll cage. So that's all that. Fans, super tight fit. I actually had to notch a little piece of the tube out under here to clear the electric fan motor. And then I got all the tubs filled in. So I don't know how it is in here, if it's really dark or how it's going to show up in the video, but these are, I made these tubs from scratch. They're 16 gauge, so I'm hoping they can take a little bit of a beating from tire explosions and stuff like that. From the videos I've watched, like the guys from Australia always go pretty hard on the wheel tubs to keep everything together. So those are 16 gauge, pretty much everything else is 16 gauge. And then I just tied it in. You can see where earlier when I showed that middle piece was off, I just chopped it out and welded in a new middle piece. So these tubs are 28 inches wide. So the tallest tire I probably could fit in here with a little bit of wiggle room is like 26.5, like a 235/60. I'm not really worried about it. I'm just gonna get whatever cheap tire I can to burn off. I got like 3 sets of wheels now, and I'm just gonna put some 215/60s that are off of like 2000 Malibus and shit like that. So that's all that. I'm terrible at seam sealing, so you can probably see that it kind of looks, that part looks pretty rough, but the rest of it came out pretty good. The transmission cross member is solid. It's not gonna come out, like if I have to pull the transmission on this for any reason, it'll come out the top like the Chevette. So back here, here's my wicked shelf full of tools and random stuff. There was some holes in here that you could see in the last picture. This has all been sealed off so that I can keep smoke. If any smoke gets into the trunk, it's not gonna get into the car. And then also, if I do some fire burnouts, this fire from underneath isn't gonna get into the trunk and then into the car also. So here's the fuel cell. Oh, here we are. Here's the fuel cell. You can kind of tell back here, it kind of looks the same as it used to. There's not a lot of room left. The wheel tubs are pretty much right there. That's just my hole for that. It's a tight fit. This is an 8-gallon RCI. I'll cut to how I set up the fuel pumps. I just wanted to go over the fuel tank setup on the Mini real quick before I put it together and totally forget about it. So I bought a 8-gallon RCI fuel cell, plastic because it's going to be methanol, and methanol eats everything, but I'm just trying to limit the amount of bare aluminum in the system. Got rid of the black plastic cap. I don't know where I have it, but everybody knows what that is. It flips up and it's a pain in the ass. One of these is a return and the other one's the rollover valve, and then it has two down here, but I'm not using those. I'm going to actually do in-tank pumps. So also, because the trunk is so small, I can't get to the middle of this to fill it. So I put a dash 20. It's just a bulkhead, hydraulic bulkhead, $10 from like my hydraulic store. So this fits to the corner of the trunk, so I'll be able to get like a race gas can into it. And then I built this originally. So this is I made an aluminum plate. That's a dash 16 ORB plug. And then it has a sprinkler head. You get these at Lowe's. They're 1/4 inch NPT to 3/8 NPT, which is about the same as the dash 10. A little bit of a lip in there. And then I'm running two 450s, standard eBay 450s, and one 255 that I had kicking around just because I like to party. So that's pretty straightforward. I got it all wired together. I got lots of slack in the lines, put a grommet in the plate here, and then just filled it full of seal all while I had it upside down. So I'm gonna jam this whole assembly into the tank, and I used these are those high pressure hose clamps. They were cheap. They don't seem to cut the hose like they're a little bit beveled on the edges, so they don't cut the hose like a normal one does. And these are also high pressure fuel injection fuel line, rubber fuel line. Not much to it. Comes out two separate. I'm gonna run maybe the 255 boost referenced or something, and then the other ones are just some big. These are leftover wires from the Dominator power wires. My battery is pretty close to my Dominator in my Chevette, so I had like lots of extra wire, so I just decided to recycle them and use them for this. One will just go to the chassis, and then the power will just go to a heavy duty relay, probably like a constant duty style relay. So that's pretty much it. So I just went and grabbed a light to kind of give you a better look in here. You can see it's all notched out for the sump there. I had to notch out the cross member, but there's lots of material. You can see the tubs in there. They're huge. They're 14 inches wide by 28 inches tall, so they're half the width, half as wide as they are tall. And then there's just a bunch of filler stuff. I still have some silicone seam sealing to do here. Lots of just tacking and seam sealing. Yeah, You can see the two ready rods. Those are what will hold straps down for the tank. And then this is the inside of the wheel well here. You can see the leaf springs. You can see the wheel well there. So all I did is I cut the side out, the 28-inch diameter, and then I pretty much just rolled the top piece as I tacked it. So I started down here, tacked it all the way around, and then I once I got it like that, then I kind of cut it to fit the frame rail. It goes down like that, down to the front leaf spring bolt, and then I just kind of made it fit the wheel well. So back here, it's a mess. There's lots of rust and stuff, but I'm gonna build a plate that comes from the back of the tub down to kind of protect this rust from getting even more damaged when a tire blows up. So I'm gonna take some more 16 gauge and I'm just gonna make a plate that comes all the way and tack it to the bottom of the rear splash pan here. Like I said, this car's rough. So you can see I've done some seam sealing here. Everything I'm pretty much trying to do back here, I'm trying to keep it airtight on both sides, so everything's getting seam sealed on the inside and the outside of the car. So just to keep the smoke out, and so I don't have to think about the car being on fire. If it's on fire, it's not going to be anything important, hopefully. But that's that. So here's a quick shot of the engine compartment before we drop the engine in it. I just thought I'd give you a shot and show you the steering setup and motor mounts and brake lines and whatever. So here you can see the Chevette front suspension. You can see the line in the middle where I narrowed it. This is that sweep manufacturing rack I talked about before. It's about 2 turns lock to lock. It should be pretty quick. And then I had to buy a fancy, I think it's a Borgeson U-joint to fit the rack, and then the rest of it is just, that's some double D shaft and a steering shaft out of, I think it was a Jeep. And I just cut it, shortened it, and welded it so it wouldn't move. And then, like I said before, that U-joint's off of a Chev truck. I just cut it and slipped a piece of 3/4 inch OD tube over it, and that goes into the rest of the steering column. So that's all that. You can see all the frame rails. These are just some plates I got from a local 4x4 shop. They were cheap, so I just bought them instead of made them to make things quicker. I don't have the outer tie rod, inner tie rod in right now until I get it on the ground, because it's got these Chevette front suspensions have quite a bit of travel, and it actually puts the Heim on the steering into a bind, so hopefully I don't do any wheelies. You can see the brake line, it just comes up to here, comes across the firewall, goes into a T, and then it goes into the inside of the car right there, under the, like right next to the steering column. I'm gonna redo that one line that goes into the cab. It just didn't come out as nice as I hoped. Converter's in, it's a 2200 stall, just basic converter, came with the tranny for 125 bucks, so we're just gonna roll with it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You can see the notch for the blower. This is just pushed in because we put a Lexan windshield in it. We were just messing around. I had a piece of really thin Lexan, and it didn't really end up working out because it's hard to see, but there is a crack in it. We made it a little bit too big, and then we tried to force it into place, and it broke, but then now it's kind of just popping out in places. So before this is all wrapped up, I'm gonna put a new windshield in it, a new plexiglass one, because a real one's like 400 bucks US, so. That's that. And yeah, so I'm gonna drop the engine in now, and then I'll show you the blower intake and what I built and what I still gotta build, and hopefully I can get some of the blower pulleys on, coolant lines on, and we'll go from there. So after a bit of messing around, I got the engine in, got the front blower, I took the grill out, you can see the blower pulley in there, got the coolant lines on. This is just kind of the final assembly stuff, got the coils back on. It was a tight fit. Obviously, LS isn't meant for a Mini, but I'll give you a rundown here. This is a Holley high ram. I've showed it before in one of the original videos. I got this for, I got a gift certificate for $500 from LS Fest last year for getting Best in the West. A bunch of magazine editors picked my car, so they gave me a gift certificate for it. So I phoned up Holley, got this for my prize, and I knew right away what I was planning on doing with it. So I just have it supported up like this. It looks kind of weird, but I kind of wanted to show you both pieces all in one. So what did this is the top piece. So it has these angled ready rod on the sides, and that's bolts down the side of the blower. And then these long rods go all the way through the intake. You can see I tapped the intake. I actually welded a piece. You can see it comes out all the way down there. I welded a piece on the back side of the intake underneath this, and then drilled and tapped it 7/16 on my mill, and then ran it up, and it comes through this plate that I made. So this was just a piece of aluminum I got off eBay. It's like 3/8 thick. I just measured the top and found the closest one, so I didn't have to mill a bunch. I milled this hole out for the blower for the induction, and then I did some creative setup with my mill, which is pretty much just a glorified drill press with a table, and drilled these out on the proper angle. I think it was like 60 degrees or something around there. So that's all that. And the reason I did this is because I seen some of the Aussie guys running this lower for the blowers, and they were having problems because of these little bolts are just little 1/4 inch bolts here. And if they're only using those to hold the blower down, there's not a lot of meat on a high ram on these bolts, like all along here. So I didn't want to have the whole blower and the boost and the expansion and everything with aluminum just relying on these bolts. So I drilled this through, it runs all the way through, and it's just going to sandwich this and the blower together. So this will never break off the intake manifold because it's mostly relying on the 7/16 bolts. So I might end up making these. I've had a few people ask about this. This is actually for the 6V71. There's a few Aussie companies that make the ones for like a GMC style 671, which has the bolt holes along here. They're a lot wider. This worked out really well because it keeps everything really tight. It's actually smaller than the pattern of the blower is actually smaller than the pattern of the high ram, so nothing really interferes. These rods here have a nut welded to the back of it, so they can't pull out. Just a little bit of extra reinforcement. So the next thing I'm going to do is install the O-ring in here, bolt the top down just with the outer bolts, and then I can do the mock-up for my fuel rails, injectors, fuel lines, blower pulleys. I'm going to set the blower on again, and I'm just going to use 2 bolts down here and just line it up so I have everything where it's supposed to be. So that'll be the next thing. Just a quick update here. We leave tomorrow for LS Fest, and I'm still working on the car. Pretty much everything's wrapped up. You can see the cooler lines down there. Alternator. You can see that the belt runs in front. I have a pulley that bolts to the front of the blower pulley. And it's just got the big truck alternator on there with a big pulley so that when I spin it, it's not gonna hopefully kick the belt. This has been the main thing I've been working on. I did a burnout video a couple days ago, posted it on Facebook. Yeah, it got some traction, but you can see that the car filled with smoke because I didn't have this installed. This is the middle section of the car, the tranny tunnel that fits between the seats and covers up the transmission and all that kind of good stuff. So I just had to rework it a little bit to make the middle tunnel fit. You can see my shifter mount there, it comes through the middle, and then at the back there's a hole, and that's where the middle of the seat belt attaches to. So it's all filled in now. I'm just gonna pop it out, buff down the tack welds, seam seal it, paint it all, and then throw it back in, and that's kind of the final time. Put the interior back in, put the passenger seat belt in. That's my battery box. I'll come on this side. My favorite sticker of all time. So you can see more of the tunnel here. Here's the ECU mounted. I just got the map sensor hanging there. We had to mess around with the map sensor wiring a little bit, so I shortened it up and moved the map sensor inside the car so it would be easier to get to. OBD2 port, fuse block, distribution block down there. You can see in the back here all the tubs and stuff. So this is a plastic ammo box I got at our Princess Auto place. It was the perfect size for a small Honda battery. So you can see the Honda battery sits in there. It's sealed. All the battery cables, I drilled holes in the bottom, so they all go through the bottom, so it's all sealed to the inside of the car. And yeah, that's pretty much that part. So next thing, I just got to pop all this stuff out, seam seal it up, paint it up, and then put it all back together for final assembly, and we're done. And then we're off. Only thing I got left is I just picked up a bunch of rims and tires, and I'm gonna see if they fit. They're off a Crown Vic 225/60/16, so hopefully they're a decent size so that I can get some decent wheel speed out of it. So if you haven't seen them, there's a few YouTube videos I just want to kind of shout out because I have no idea when I'm going to be able to do like the best of Burnout videos with this car or whatever. So if you want to check out my buddy Richie, his channel is Dick Ham. He did an interview with me. I did a video with Big Clebe 34. If you search just their name or just Blown Mini, it'll come up. It's pretty much, if you search Blown Mini, it's like the first few. And then I did one with Larry Chen for Hoonigan. That one was a really well produced. I was actually really impressed. That's kind of like my go-to when I send people to ask when they want to know information about the car, because most people think it's just an ornament, that it actually doesn't run or kill tires or do any of that stuff. So you can go check those out. That one, if you just Google or search on YouTube, Hoonigan Mini, it comes up. It's a really awesome video. I've done a few other ones, but like if you just search Mini, Blown Mini, there's only really this one and the Tub Ship guy from Australia, which I want to go out because it's always in the comments of everything I ever see when Texas Speed or LSX or somebody on Instagram posts something. They're like, haven't you seen Tub Ship? I think that's how they call it. But I know the car. This isn't meant to be the same kind of car like this. This is supposed to look kind of like a street machine. That thing is a hardcore blown alcohol burnout car. So no real comparison other than they're both minis, and we both had our own ideas. So the car was in a couple magazines too, so I'm just going to give you a quick show because one of them's not out anymore and the other one just came out, and hopefully if I can get my ish together, you can probably still go buy it if you're Canadian. So I'm just gonna flip to that. So this is Canadian Hot Rods magazine. It's a local Canadian magazine run by a guy named Terry. He had one of his guys come and shoot the car locally here in Calgary. So I drove it around on the streets of Calgary here, and this is out right now. It's the December-January 2020 issue if you're looking for it. So this is the article here. A guy named Britton did the article. Really wicked job. Of course, I did a fat burnout and just a really great layout. Some of the best photos that I've ever had that I'll probably cherish forever. Just kind of got all the angles to really picture the way the car actually is. This is one of my favorites, with my arm hanging out and me sitting in the back seat. So that one's current. And then this one was, when did it come out? This was October 2019 of CarCraft. Unfortunately, the now defunct CarCraft, according to the other day. So didn't even know anything about this. Talked to a couple of the guys from CarCraft while we were at LS Fest. Never thought anything above it because I talked to a bunch of people that weekend. And then I got an email asking about my cover, and I had no idea what they were talking about. So it was a pretty insane to not, like, I kind of knew what was coming out with what was at LS Fest and stuff, and it was insane. That's my buddy Richie's car, his Pacer, that it was at LS Fest too. Let's see if we can find the article. There's the back page. That photo is by Larry Chen. You can see that the wheel looks like it's gonna fold over on itself, which is pretty cool. And my exhaust actually bent down because it was two-stepping, like banging off the limiter so hard, and it was so hot that it actually softened up the exhaust to the point where it was almost dragging on the ground. So here's the article. Of course, they had to put my mug in there because I'm 6 foot whatever, and I'm driving this little Austin Mini doing burnouts and stuff like that. So now that you've seen the final build video and the first burnout video that we did in the driveway of the shop, that video's actually got like over almost 5 million views on YouTube or on Facebook, just in one of the random videos that got popped out by Turbo King. And so we came back from LS Fest. I'll probably do another video of all the like highlight reel stuff that I have and my buddy Richie got from LS Fest. And when I have more time, we're gonna actually jump into some other projects real quick here. I'm kind of excited because it's not gonna be LS based, so it's gonna be different. So stay tuned for that. The car came back. We brought it back from LS Fest. I literally haven't really done anything other than I took it to a local, it's called Street Machine Weekend. I actually drove the car on the street. And then the weekend after that, it got shot for a magazine. And then other than pulling out of the garage a couple times, it's pretty much just been sitting here. We have to fix a few things. The cooling system needs to go back to the drawing board. It runs really hot. We had it up to almost 300 degrees when we were in Vegas. So like I said, we had it up to almost 300 degrees in Vegas a couple times, banged it off the limiter for 4 minutes, and we found a couple weaknesses. The engine's still running strong. We're going to pull the blower and check that out, do a better, like a Davies Craig water pump to kind of get the water circulating because we were having issues with that. And I'm going to switch the rear gear ratio from 3.25s to 2.73s. So that'll go from 160 mile an hour rear wheel speed up to 190 mile an hour rear wheel speed. The other thing is we're going to make it so it's a manual valve body. There's just some mods you can do the thing, because the big thing I want to do is be able to start, the car's so light, I want to be able to start my burnouts in third, so I just get that instant hit of tire smoke and noise and all that kind of things that go with it. So we'll be doing a couple things over the winter to this thing, tune it, because I never tuned it. I have to rework the exhaust and a few other things. So that'll be probably like one video, probably the week before we leave for LS Fest, the way things usually work for me. So hopefully we can get it all wrapped up. So that's where we're at. Sorry I've taken so long. I really want to get back in the groove. I really enjoy doing YouTube, but it's really hard to sit down and do YouTube when you have a shop full of cars. Right now I have 9 cars at my shop. I kind of promised myself I was going to get them all done before I started doing stuff, but that didn't really work out. So I'm hoping next week I can bang out a video. That might be next week. That might be next week, 3 months from now. But I'm hoping I can get another one out. We got this new project. I'm calling it The Tangent, because it's totally out there from what I'm normally doing. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I always love to learn, so it's something new I'm doing. And plus, we still got other projects like the Pinto. The Pinto's kind of gone off the deep end like everything else I'm doing. We'll do another video on that. I have some of the parts here. We're just putting the engine together for the LS, and we've changed transmission ideas, so we're going to be using a different transmission in it. And then I have some other stuff coming, and the project keeps changing because I'll sell stuff and get more stuff. You guys know the deal. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching. I appreciate all the people that are on my YouTube, Instagram, the people who follow me on Facebook. I'm terrible at updating my shop page. Facebook tells me all the time. But if you need to know where what I got going on, follow me on Instagram at the House of Boosts, or follow me on YouTube at the House of Boosts, and I'll see you next time.